Fail to learn, and today I'm going to show you what I've been up to for the last 2 weeks. Alright, here we go. This one right here is 50% cement, 25% sand, and 25% perlite. I think it's a little bit too much Portland cement. This one right here is actually my sodium silicate, the same exact mix as this one. And it has those weird rings. I don't know, it's the only one with it. I took some heat to it. It cracked originally where the heat was. Now it's cracking everywhere. Now that was actually diluted. I diluted this mix. The other half of the mix is in there as a filler. That one's like totally ruined because I heated it. This is the sodium silicate. Same 2-part Portland cement, 1 part perlite, 1 part sand. Very, very thickly done. It was like a slump. Very, very thick. Not diluted at all. But I still used a lot of sodium silicate. If I can somehow zoom in, it is starting to crack. But not bad, just the top half is cracking. This one, test 4, we'll call it. This was so dry when I was going like this to pack it in. This stuck to my glove. It belongs there. I took the heat to this direct torch. The edges are melted. It started making a hiss, it started to bubble, and then it started to melt. I don't think that's the cement that melted. I think it's the perlite and water glass. Now, shortly after I did that, this right here is perlite. I took a direct torch to it. The perlite just started melting. It turned red hot and started melting. This is the perlite after it melted. The perlite I'm using is extremely fine perlite. It's not normal garden variety perlite. It's that bag over there. Now I also did another test I did with the sodium silicate. I made a top surface coating on this, and I took a torch to it forever. First it did this, cracked the turn into the white stuff, very flaky. Then as I kept heating it, it turned into like this yellowish goop. I can't say for certain if it's the stone underneath, but I'm pretty sure it was the sodium silicate heated. This stuff right here was done early on. This is cement with Drano. This stuff right here was what I was last talking about. Extremely thick. The crack there, it's new, but it was always kind of cracked. You could tell from the rough texture on the back. It's always looked that way because it was so dry. This one here, 4 parts sand, 2 parts Portland, and 1 part perlite. It's very heavy on the sand. This is the way it's supposed to be, but it cracked in half coming out of my forms, and for that I didn't want to continue using that kind of high sand. But it is very strong now. Very strong. Oh, that's with water, by the way. This one's with sodium silicate. I did higher sand than normal. I did 1 perlite, 1 part perlite, 2 part sand, 2 part Portland cement. So this one's a lot more sand grit in it. I made it extremely thick, and I gotta say it's holding up well for cracks. In here, it's just made today. I took clay, and that's clay in there. It's hard to tell the parts to it because I had leftover, but I added this clay here. This is not the bentonite. I made a mistake, but it is a type of clay. Those are all the tests I've made so far. I've got a few more in mind, but I'm not going to show them. All the content you'll see going on from this video is just me working with some of the first few samples. I deleted most of the other content. It was extremely boring to watch, so it's deleted. Okay, this is actually still very soft. See, I can leave my finger. This one, pretty much a rock. It feels a little elastic, like I can put my nail into it and it kind of springs back. It's like has like a soft feel to it, but it's really pretty much a solid rock. Still curing. I used about the same amount of moisture, but this one looked a lot soupier. I actually made this too wet. According to other people who've been making bricks, I gotta leave it more of a dry mix and just like a hand pack. I could make a ball, but I went kind of soupy with this one too. I kind of thought I was supposed to pour it, but it actually poured very well. It's very strong. I really haven't taken it to the tests yet, but I got to thinking, what made this cure so fast? I was thinking this sodium silicate maybe bonded with it, I don't know. Or maybe the fact it was so caustic, the base was so high or low, whatever, that it just cured it faster. So that's the experiment I want to run. I have just added the Drano to the water. I got the same exact mix. I dry mixed it first. I got the sand, the Portland cement, and the perlite in here, all dry mixed. Now this does not have the cat litter in it. It's just the Drano, making this very caustic. And I let it cool off, so that way I can't say it was the heat that cured it. And I want to add it to that. This is just out of curiosity. I want to know if adding Drano to my water before making my cement mixes. I mean, I have mixed cement before. Alright. It's a little watery, but I want to be fair with it because I made the other stuff watery. I just want to know if it was the sodium silicate that caused it to cure so fast, or is it the caustic nature of it? So I'm just gonna let this cure in the cup because I don't really need any other experimentation with it. Just want to know the cure time was affected because like this is still watery. I fully expected everything to take an overnight to cure, but this is already something I could probably walk on. Adding the Drano obviously caused it to cure a lot faster. Actually, you know what? Oh. Okay. It's flipped in the cup. Yep, this is not properly mixed in the cup. I should have did a better job mixing. This is this normal stuff, what I would expect. I mean, I've pulled off enough cement forms to know what it looks like. And this one actually acted completely different. It didn't stick to it, and you can still see like a discoloration. It feels dry, but there's a discoloration to it. It looks like it's wet, but it's actually dry. Oops. Now over here, I have the bricks. The bottom half looks different color than the top. And the top is a little softer when I stick my nail into it compared to the bottom. So I'm assuming the wood probably pulled some of the moisture off of it, but then that would have been true for the sides. Probably cured from the bottom up. But could it still be retaining moisture? Is this something I should be driving off? This stuff, a little grayer. The top surface here has like a white film on it. This was exposed the whole time, so it has a white film all around it. But this was like the Drano. I just added the Drano to the water to get like a ground sample or test control, whatever. I want to test variables. What I would like to do now is I would like to break it in half. So let me set that up. I hope not to actually break this. It's kind of my only piece. It would be heartening to see this all snap. Disheartening to watch this all break and crumble. It's a little soft. I'm just trying to give it a little seam line here, so when I go to drive it all the way in, it'll have a line to follow. I don't think I'm gonna break this. It's just sinking in instead of cracking. Got a huge bust out, it just sank in, and then when I removed it, it pulled out the sides, see? If it was a dry brick, I would expect a nice big crack to occur. I'm gonna try the other stuff. Yeah, that's what I would expect. See, just a couple hits. I'm gonna try the stuff here. Yeah, that too. Inside's a little darker than the outside. Alright, that's more of what I was expecting. This stuff here, I know it's a little thicker, but not by much. See? I don't know if my angle's right. I have my camera turned around to make a better shot. It's not too much thicker by comparison. And this took, what, 2-3 swings? This is just sinking in. Alright, I'm going to keep working at this. gotta be stronger. Sorry, I take the view first myself. I see my arrogance in there, my rocks. I like this. I really like this stuff. I just hope it holds up to the heat. Everything I've found so far about this stuff is promising. It's stronger, cures faster. Will it just take the heat better? And insulate. That's what I need, to insulate and actually take the heat. Alright, I'm gonna run some other tests. Actually, I can just grab the camera now. I'm gonna bury that in the sand. And what I hope to accomplish is to drive the excessive moisture out. You know what? I could put this in a spotlight here for a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to drive these 3 sample pieces into my sand. The sand's going to warm up and warm up the pieces. And I've noticed these rings. I don't know what the heck they are, but that's the stuff with the sodium silicate making those rings. This stuff does not have those rings. And I've been trying, this is the one I cut in half. You see that? It's still kind of like a moisture on that. And this side that was cut has turned to a gray color. Now, I did take the heat and made this red hot, but if you can focus, I got cracks everywhere. See, this top surface is cracked. This stuff, when I heated it, other side, was exploding. All the top pieces kept popping off, and then even lower kept popping. This stuff at least did not pop, but you see the cracks. So I'm assuming it's because there's a lot of moisture still in this brick. Now I'm over here, I'm trying to take the moisture out. But if I can get a light on this. Do you see what's happening? The entire top half is just cracking to pieces. That's the sodium silicate one. But it's also drying. You can see the color change. This stuff had a huge color change, but it's not cracked like the other one. Even this one here with, oops, get my finger. Even the one over here, the small one, that doesn't have cracks. But when I heated the small one, it did explode too. So driving the heat out has caused this one to crack massively. Which, you know, I kind of spent a lot of time making this stuff. It had a lot of promising properties. A lot. Here's the hot plate. I've been trying to drive the moisture out. So I'm going to try it again. Now this stuff I did not dilute. This stuff is extremely thick, which is what I'm going to like. I'm going to make one more batch. I'm not going to dilute it because diluting it's adding a lot of moisture, and that moisture doesn't seem to want to come out. And last time I made it watery to pour it. This time I'm going to make it dry. I got the materials here. See? I'm going to try this again. Perlite, sand, and Portland cement. And I'm going to make another batch. Yeah, see, this is still very dark. There's probably moisture. This is starting to lighten up, but it's not as light as it could be. And that's just a surface. Inside it's probably retaining a lot of moisture. And this had 24 hours to dry. And I don't know. Let's go outside here. This stuff is probably feels like a month old now. it still has color in it. It's still drying. Even the stuff I did with the 90-minute set compound, it's still changing color. And you can see a little discoloration in there. I mean, I don't know if the camera picks it up. And also cracked around the edges when I do that. This is the stuff without, this is just plain water. It's a lot lighter than that stuff. So I'm assuming the sodium silicate is holding on to the moisture. Now let me show you some of the more original batch here. This has just been exposed this entire time. But you could see it's still very wet. I can actually, it's extremely slow moving, but if I go like this, in about an hour it'll end up on that side. So even though you don't see it, I guess it's somewhat still sluggishly moves. But this has been exposed now for a while. And as you can tell, it hasn't cured. This stuff on its own doesn't seem to cure. It holds the moisture, it stays wet. I know you're supposed to put carbon dioxide into it, they say, but I mean, what is it, air 70% carbon dioxide? I don't know, it just doesn't cure. I mean, it has like a surface on it. You can see the surface, but you can feel underneath isn't anywhere as tough as this. And this is bad to do without gloves on, because I have many burns. And just simply washing your hands isn't really good enough. I'm gonna put my gloves on and wash my hands now. Okay. Let's tell this in order I can have people understand. This is the driest of them all. I heated this one up in that bucket and I left it there for a couple hours. This is the other half of that piece, just like that. And this one, as you can tell, is a little darker, but yet it's still drier than this guy. I heated this one up. It's part of this guy. You can see there's color differences. This one that I heated that's completely cracked is a lot drier. And you can see the cracking everywhere. This is with the sodium silicate. It appears the sodium silicate holds on to moisture for a long time. Because this is like 2 days old now. And you can see it's still like dark. Dark means it's holding moisture. And you can see each time the plain water that I heated about a day later is almost white. I would say it's almost cured. This one that I left out for the 2 days is curing. Well, drying, the moisture's coming out. This one, even though I heated it, it's still wetter than this guy. And it looked like it shrank a little bit. It doesn't match quite perfectly with this one anymore. So driving the moisture out too soon is going to cause it to crack. This one cracked where I heated it with the torches in places to test it. You can see cracking in that. So the water glass is not holding up too well. It might be because of not letting the moisture dry. Now this one, I made extremely thick. It wasn't soupy like I did with the other one. But I'm going to let it dry for about a week this time before I try to heat dry it with that. But that doesn't make sense because if I also do this large scale and I had like a big bucket with this and those like really thick stuff, it would take an eternity for it to cure through. I don't know how to cure this stuff without making it turn into this, a crackly mess. But that's why these tests are for. I might make one more batch, even drier than I made this one. Something that's like really basically crumbly. And see if I can get that to form into a brick if I pack it. And that's my next step, but I don't have any more water glass to test with. I think this time I'm going to make it with distilled water and no promises. Distilling my own water. Very slow process, and I'm losing a ton of my own steam. I have no way to tell how much water I have in there, so I could run it dry by accident. Alright. I'll have to make something better if I plan on doing this. That's not taking the heat very well. Not very well at all. At least I know how to curve plastic PVC piping now. The newest edition. This one I made extremely dry. It was sticking to my gloves as I was pouring it. I'm actually surprised it's a solid piece and not just crumbled up dirt. I mean, it wasn't really making a ball too well because it was so dry. I actually had to pack it. It's still fresh, darker than that one. And that one's still darker than that. And that one's still lighter than that one. Well, you can see the progression. After all this testing, I'm not happy with any of it. This was only supposed to be a one-time burn, but one-time use. I've gone way out of control. I'm just gonna make something now.